So my name's Aaron Miller. I'm a staff therapist here at Counseling Services. I think in terms of staying organized, some of the best things is figuring out what works for you. I think a lot of time management is knowing yourself and your style. And so if you're someone that feels good about lists and crossing things off, then sometimes a hard kind of copy planner is best. I think smartphones and everything like that have so many built-in list applications and calendar applications that those can be really good too. So I think it's being honest with yourself about what you can keep up with. If you're not going to kind of take a planner around with you everywhere, then a planner is probably not going to be the most helpful thing. So I think there's some kind of like experimenting in terms of that. You can have big picture goals. And then, so if your goal is to raise your GPA, then I think with a lot of the things that you put into your schedule, you can ask yourself, well, how is this going to help me get a higher GPA this semester? So, and it's not like the answer for everything has to be yes. I think self-care is really important too. And so if that's not on somebody's priority list, those things that you enjoy should be on there, because if you totally are focused on buckling down on school and you're not building in that time to take care of yourself, then you're either not going to stick to your schedule, you're going to get burnt out. So I think that's important as well. I think the big thing about time management is it's more priority management. And so I think that's a really good place to start with time management. I think when people typically think of time management, it's I need to make my schedule and I need to fit everything in. But I think it's really important to start with goals and priorities first, because ideally your schedule and your priorities should match up. So if one semester it's really important to get good grades and work on, your relationship with your family or spend time with your friends, that should be reflected. When I did my talk, we did an activity where we had people kind of break down what are the 5 kind of priorities they have and put them in rank order. And then I asked them to rank them in terms of how much they spend their time on. And a lot of people, that was really different. So there's some things that you have to do in terms of like as a student, you have to go to class and things like that. But for the most part, those should be pretty lined up. So I think that's a really good place to start for people, is looking at how their priorities and their schedule matches. On the flip side, if all your kind of time is going into, spending time with people and you're not putting in that study time, that's where people run into problems too. But I think it can go kind of both ways. I think there's a lot of different reasons why people procrastinate. For some people, it might be, they're afraid of evaluation. So they're afraid maybe like if I turn in this project and it's kind of negatively received by my teacher, my classmates see it, then that'll cause them to put it off. Or maybe it's they haven't had proper training, so they don't know what to do, so they put it off and they wait to ask. Or it could be perfectionism, like for some people it's got to be perfect, and so they'll wait to the last minute. So if it's not perfect, there's kind of that built-in reason for it. And there's probably hundreds of other reasons why people procrastinate. So I think there's a piece of, if you can start to reflect on some of that stuff yourself, and then maybe see, so if you know that you're a perfectionist, then maybe that's working on, how do I let myself be okay with good enough work? But if you're totally lost with it, that's why people sometimes will come in here and kind of have maybe a couple consultation sessions to talk about it. I think once you figure out what's holding you back, then I think you can take action on it. I think some people are just like, oh, I just procrastinate, that's how I am, and then aren't motivated to do it because they kind of take that so much of like, this is the normal thing for me and this is my normal pattern. So if somebody's really motivated to work on it, I think stopping to think about like, why am I doing this, is usually the best first step. So anyone that's interested in services here, the first 4 initial appointments are free. So if someone came in and just wanted to kind of have time management kind of tips on that, or if they're struggling academically, the first place we start is setting up kind of a consultation appointment. So you come in and we figure out what's going on. So we can connect you some resources. We have some that are online. We've got some that might be, you meeting with somebody one-on-one. Sometimes we'll have different workshops. So I think then you can start to figure out, what's the best kind of route to help with what you're looking for. So we've got biofeedback services that help people that sometimes get really worked up in terms of assignments, maybe get really anxious or worried. So sometimes biofeedback can be helpful. But in that initial consultation, the person that you'd meet with, you and them could sit down and kind of figure out what's going on.